People waiting. Welcome. Buster.
It is probably the single most important mathematical idea of all. The notion of proof by circle and line or ruler and compass construction means that geometry can be known about in a way that is different from knowing about physical things, and so makes geometry epistemically differentiated. Furthermore, starting from circles and lines alone and constructing a relationship using circles and lines alone makes the conclusions certain in a way that nothing else was at the time. In geometric reasoning, the argument and the conclusions were made supremely clear and evident to the senses. Indeed, the concept of proof, a mechanism that gave a warrant for claiming geometry to be perfectly and absolutely true, made geometry the very paradigm of what we mean true and certain knowledge to be. In effect, in our understanding of nature, true means true, like geometry is true.
Come go with me. Open your mind. Was all I ever knew. Finding the knowledge of the real world starts with the point of which has no parts. These are the axioms of life.
True.
And I take my chances with the old ways, finding the proofs in geometry.
Perfect.
And I don't care what all the sophists say. I find the proofs in reality. They were right.
We call this
We
proof.
know that they were right.
True. We call this proof. Like geometry is true.
Starting with circles and lines alone, constructing the nature of what's known.
We call this proof.
Conclusions are clear and the evidence seen. This 3D space works perfectly. And I take my chances with the old ways, finding the proofs in geometry. And I don't care what all the sophists say. I find the proofs in reality.
Geometry is true. Perfect. Absolutely.
And all around you is sinking sand. You have a place on which to stand. Foundations were already built for you.
Absolutely true.
Open your mind. And I'll take my chances with the old ways, hearing the words of what the ancients said. They say my words sound like sorcery, but there's wisdom in all honesty.
True.
Come go with me. Open your mind. Come go with me. We'll find the truth.
Absolutely true.
And we are live. Welcome. It is Tuesday, Logic Day. Titled this one Fallacies and Paralogisms, because I think we've hit upon I don't know. It's we've hit upon logic, and that logic has shown us basically what a fallacy is, but the understanding of what a fallacy is depends upon your understanding of a logical process. The logical process, Shout out to Buster for the wisdom song. One of the best. Gadget says it's one of his favourites, but you say that, I can say that about every one of them. But that one was quite a good one. It was fun making that video. So, logic today. We're doing sort of a proof week, proof series or whatever to try and understand why logic, why proof. So today the logical reasons behind us trying to find a proof, and how you do that, and you know how you associate all of these things from the understanding of why would we need a proof, and how do we get a proof, and why do we need a proof? Well, a proof obviously is it's an answer to a question that ends up with a truth value, right? You want to be able to ask a question and receive an answer, and you want to be sure that the answer that you get is going to be a truthful one. You don't want it to be caught up in some sort of a misunderstanding where you can misinterpret what the meaning of the reply was. Obviously, for reasons of like, say there's a mushroom there, should I eat that? If you could misinterpret the answer, then you might just end up dying. Like, there are consequences for certain things within reality that require a direct understanding and a meaning behind whatever it is that we're doing. And what we've hit upon just recently is this paralogisms, but built up within a fallacy. Now, everybody's probably heard of fallacies and stuff. People, red herrings and sharpshooter. They don't really mean anything because they're hidden behind words. But a fallacy basically is when you come to a conclusion and that conclusion isn't necessarily based upon anything. It's a false conclusion that hasn't been based upon the initial premise. And now that can happen for a multitude of different reasons. The reasons why you end up with a fallacious conclusion, right? A false conclusion, let's say. Somebody said earlier about a false proof. I think it was Betty, actually. I'm pretty sure. I'll have to have a look for that. Let me have a look. I'm pretty sure he put it in a video comment. Where he said proof can be either false let me just check this. No, that's not it. No, he was saying there was a proof that could be both true and false, which I'm not too sure. I think a proof is always positive. It's always a positive assertion, with the truth value being the truth. But anyway, I don't want to hop on about supposed logic teachers. seem to be not making much sense within the system of logic. But if you take it that the conclusion that you come to, if you word logic in the simplest way, it should be broken down, should be very easy to understand, and it should be based upon the basic principles of your mind, your P's and Q's. So you make sure what you're talking about has your the law of identity, P is P, and also the excluded middle, which means that there can be no middle ground. It's always either on or off, or positive or negative, or there's no middle ground, true or false. And the law of non-contradiction, where you cannot contradict. You can't have a contradiction in reality, so therefore within logic you should not have a contradiction within. You can't have something being both true and false, because that's a contradiction. So you base your logic on those initial statements, and then make your logic a very simple, and then if this, then this, and then does this happen? Well, yes or no. You know, should be very simple logic. It should be easily understandable. That's the idea of it. Without trying to get it bogged down in anything other than that. But what we've hit upon is a fallacy of people not understanding logic, and the way that it's been taught, the dismissal of logic, it's been built in with contradictions, have been made acceptable. There are acceptable contradictions, paradoxes. Now, I can't see how there are, but I'm still open for anybody if they want to come and have a conversation about paradoxes that they think that may exist in reality. I can't personally see how it could be. But then, if you have built a system of logic around that sort of concept, and you are so, let's say, not thinking about the logical process, then you can end up coming to a fallacious reasoning concept at the end of that without actually realizing or knowing that it might be fallacious. Now, this obviously works both ways, because the other person can also think the same of you. So it can be a proper argument. I think the only way for you to sort this sort of a thing out is to have a discussion about it, which I would consider to call an argument. It's a discussion about a logical statement, base an argument upon whether the logic is sound and whether it's valid. Any sort of logic should be both sound and valid. So, today's one is about fallacies and paralogisms. Now, we do have an example of this. Is that Dawn in the chat today? No, from the other day, yeah. A proof isn't necessarily true. You are talking nonsense now. gets a bit difficult. Now, in the agent's line, I'll put this in the main chat because so you guys can go to it. I'm gonna put this on main screen. Okay. So, give you a backstory on this. Exactly what it is. This is from Stark Order. Now, this is, I think, a perfect example of what I'm going to call a paralogism. And I'll leave it up to you guys, see whether anybody can spot what sort of a paralogism it might be. Or it may even be a new concept. We might be able to dub this one Stark Order fallacy. Paralogism of Stark Order, I don't know. So what he's got here, he's got at the top, measuring azimuthal angles using only Euclidean geometry. And he's got a vertical at A, here, a horizontal plane at C, and a vertical at B. And I'm guessing this is a vertical at C. So he's got 3 verticals and 3 horizontals at these triangles. Now we've been over this before. These triangles, obviously Euclidean geometry, they've all got 180 degrees. And all the horizontals and the verticals are perpendicular and parallel at all points, and this would be the angle measured and the angle measured and the angle measured. So as he says, using only Euclidean geometry, this is how they do triangulation, and that's why they have the shortest distance calculated within the trigonometry. Once they've measured their initial baseline, they can do the rest by measuring angles and working these out. And these, because it's mathematics, they're exact. The only mistakes that could possibly be made would be within the measurements of the angles by the people doing the job. The mathematics and the geometry in order to work out the triangulation positions of the triangles would be on the horizontal plane, on the, like you would imagine as a map. So the shortest line distances measured between these, or calculated through the angles, would be this plane here, this triangle on the base. Pretty simple. This is how they measure azimuthal angles. So an azimuthal angle is just an angle of turn on the horizontal plane. Just turning from left to right. Very simple angle measurements. One at A, one at B, and one at C. Ending up with a triangle on the floor, like you would imagine on a map. 180 degrees triangles. Now, this is the argument or proof. I think these wrote this one up as. This is Stark Order's proof. Proof of what? Let's see. Logic. Simply put, when triangulating between 3 landmarks, the azimuthal difference is measured at each location. So, at A, angle A is measured. At B, angle B is measured. And at C, angle C is measured. Note that these angles are not angles within the triangle ABC. I'll have a look at them again. A, B, C. Note that these angles are not, he says, not the angles within the plane of the triangle A, B, C. Some sort of a different triangle. Rather, they are projected angles in each horizontal plane, individually established at the points A, B, and C, respectively. Yeah, as the Muthel angles. He said that using Euclidean geometry. So you have one angle at C and another angle at B and another angle at A, and you do a triangle. It's pretty simple. But he seems to think that it's not the same triangle for some reason. The intersections of the verticals with the horizontal planes defines 9 points. 9 points or 3 triangles. Right, 3 triangles, not one triangle. There's only 3 angles, A, B, and C, but he wants to make 3 triangles. But I mean, this is Starkodder's proof. But only one angle in each triangle is actually measured. So just one angle. So you've got, according to Starkodder, you've got 3 individual one-angle triangles, or one angle of each of these triangles. When you've gone to A and you've measured from B to C, as in the angle of turn from B to C, and then obviously the same from all of them, but he doesn't consider that the same triangle. 3 different triangles, 3 different angles. Now, make note of this. He says, also note that if the verticals are parallel, this is a bit of logic now, then, like, that's the bit. If they make an if-then statement, then that's logic, and at this point you can start applying your logical process to it. Logic is for everybody to use. It's not. So, if the verticals are parallel, P, then the 3 horizontal triangles are congruent, brackets, i.e. the angles and sides are the same in all 3 triangles. Which means that it has to be true that A plus B plus C equals 180. Q, he says. So basically, if the verticals are parallel, then the 3 horizontal triangles are congruent, and blah, 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 and triangles have to have 180 degrees. So, I mean, I'll cut all of the bump out of the middle of it, and it's basically, if verticals are parallel, P, then triangles have 180 degrees, Q. Right? So...
That's what it says, yeah?
Yep. And then he says, therefore, an unavoidable conclusion of measuring these angles such that A plus B plus C is greater than 180 degrees, not Q, is that the verticals cannot be parallel. So that's the logic, basic logic for globe logic, I'm guessing, because I don't know. Anybody spot the fallacy within the logic? I mean, we haven't even got to the logic, but let's just say he can find some way that he can have a triangle with more than 180 degrees. Now, I mean, that may sound absolutely ridiculous, being able to do that with a triangle, but he's already set it up within his premise of within the logical premise of the argument.
So is globe.
So, well, I mean, if verticals are parallel, then triangles have 180 degrees. What does that sound like?
Sophistry.
Well, I mean, again, is it sophistry?
Well,
Because surely somebody would spot that, right? You'd have to think, if that was sophistry, you would be trying to deceive people, and you would have to think that the people you're trying to deceive are pretty stupid, right? To try and get that past them.
He's trying.
Well, that's why I don't think, I mean, he would have to think that everybody, I mean, even the Globers, right? The Globers can't go with that, right? The Globers would have to be really stupid to be able to believe that sort of a logic, I think, anyway. Does anybody think that sounds like it's a valid, logical argument?
Absolutely not. Relating the parallel verticals to the triangle, and then also saying that you can measure it past 180 degrees within the triangle, and then therefore the verticals are not parallel. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and he seems to think as well, whenever he does measure angles from A to B and B to C, right, when he does do that, he thinks they're just individual angles, and we know what you can do with an angle, right? Fuck all. One angle is useless. So I don't know what he's doing. But this is globe logic. Well, anybody spotted the paralogism, right? Because like I say, in order for this to be sophistry, he must know that it's a fallacious argument, and he must be trying to push it onto people as an argument. Now, if you accept this as an argument and you can't see the fallaciousness within it, and then if you're willing to repeat it, I mean, luckily, I don't think I've ever heard anybody repeat this argument on the Globe side yet. But you never know. I mean, it may just sit for a bit. It may be one of those ones that only appears when people need it.
It's taken from a book, right? So it has to be true.
It's not taken from a book, no.
Page 591 of the Transcontinental Triangulation.
Oh, no, that's this bit down here. Not this.
Oh, so he made it up.
He's wrote this, yeah, and he's just got that as an example. And it does say observed and correction, spherical angles and all of that, observed angles. Well, like I said, you can definitely make mistakes within your angle measurement, even though you're going to 0.3 decimal places of a second. Like, I mean, there's alarm bells all over the place within this, but this is just a proof for him that triangles can have more than 180 degrees. And if you notice, he's added blue bits here that this isn't original to this. So, but this is the part that we need to really look at. Paralogism within this. Now, shout out to Starcodder. I have asked you if you wanted to come and have a word with us about it. If you don't want to, we're going to have to go over it like this, like we've done. He's got a triangle with 180 degrees, obviously, all triangles, there's proofs within mathematics that triangles can only have 180 degrees. It's only possible for triangles to have 180 degrees, like it's only possible for pi to be 3.14. It's pretty much the same reason related to the circle, the diameter, and the circle, circumference. Same thing, really. Circle, triangle, two triangles. There's 2 pi within the angles of a circle. I don't want to get too much into it. This is logic, right? So he's relating a triangle with verticals. Why? Doesn't make any sense. So what he's done is he's related a triangle having 180 degrees with a vertical, which it doesn't relate to at all. Triangles are 2-dimensional shape that bears no relationship to a vertical. A vertical is within the 3-dimensional. It's a triangles exist in 3-dimensional world, but I mean they've got nothing to do with verticals. You can have a triangle anywhere. You can measure an angle across on azimuthal as you would. That's why you get the shortest distance. That's how you can triangulate in reality. It's got nothing to do with verticals, a triangle. So he's related a triangle to verticals, and then he's gone on to say, well, I can get a triangle with more than 180 degrees, which is also just ridiculous. But the conclusion of that means that he can then say that verticals aren't parallel. Some of the best paralogisms I've ever heard. This one in particular. Now, it may sound a bit strange, the idea and the concept of, like trying to wrap your head around exactly what he's saying.
Because it's unsound.
Doesn't make any sense, does it? Now, if you've got a logical thinking head on you, semi-logical, right? Something doesn't ring true about that argument. You can't process what's going on, but there's something that doesn't work out. Now, if you're not thinking about it, but you don't want to put the thought into it, then you would just have to accept that as a proof. And end up with, yeah, of course, verticals can't be parallel because something to do with a triangle and the way you measure angles in triangles from mountains or something. So, that's where you end up at. This is the basis of, I think, where we're at the minute. And there'll be people listening in, obviously, from the globe side and from the flat earth side, and anybody that's just listening in for logic's sake. This, something puts people into the position where they have to make these unsound logical arguments that they can justify to themselves as being a logical argument. And I don't want to sound bad or whatever, but I mean, he's not fooling us. So who's this guy fooling? Who's he trying to fool with his, It looks like an old document from some sort of a... I think even in the way it's been wrote, the way it looks, apart from the spelling mistakes and pointisms and stuff and really bad fallacious logic. But you could easily believe, if you were a non-thinking paralogist, that this is pretty valid. I mean, I know we have a guy in the... He's been in the Discord open chat all day today. Is he still there? I know Saragaki here, Stark Otter. Talking.
Yeah, the homie Don has taken over the baton from Stark Otter earlier.
But it's been full on all day, hasn't it? They've been...
Mm-hmm.
They've been trying to say Euclid and the circle, but I mean, that's just a distraction from his, I think, from his logical proof. This triangles relating to verticals. Work that one out. How'd you do that? How do you work an azimuthal angle of a triangle relating to verticals being parallel? I can't. And as for ending up with a triangle in reality, measuring a triangle in reality with more than 180 degrees. Like I said, Jen Panda was the first one that taught me that. Triangles with more than 180 degrees. I might get it back on, play it in a bit. Logic. It's very easy. Who's that? Sorry.
Yeah, it's spot on then that they've been in here. Well, maybe not like the last week, but before then, coming over and claiming that Axiom 12, you can just throw it out. No problems.
Yeah. Yeah, the triangle axiom, stating that a triangle will have on the side that less than two right angles, the triangle will be formed.
Mm-hmm. If there's more, then it will be formed on the other side.
It'd have to be formed on both sides.
In that example for them, yeah, it would.
You'd have to have two triangles, one with less, obviously, because triangles always have less than 180 or 180 degrees. And then the bit on the other side. It's just a strange concept, like the logicalness of it means that a triangle only has 180 degrees. So in order for you to end up with verticals not being parallel, it seems like a really bad way to go. Because, I mean, the way I see this paralogism working, it's not logic. So what you end up with is you need to start off with what you need to happen. So his need is that he can't have verticals being parallel. And he needs some sort of an argument to give him to say that verticals are not parallel for some reason. So what he does, he starts off with an argument. If the verticals are parallel, then a triangle has 180 degrees. Now, let's see if we can get... Yeah. These are the paralogisms. Semantic paralogism occurs when there is a contradiction in the premises and therefore the conclusion does not arrive from them. Well, is there a contradiction in the premises of this? I would say they don't even relate, so no, there isn't a contradiction because, well, I mean, could it be a contradiction that triangles aren't related to verticals in any way? I don't know. Syntactic paralogism arises from ambiguity, obscurity, vagueness, and a lack of definition of the words that form the premises. Possibly. Syntactic. Pragmatic paralogism does not present an inconsistency between the premises and conclusion, but a lack of credibility due to a lack of justification of the premises. I wouldn't say that either. And it's definitely not a definition shift. Syntactic paralogism arises from obscurity, vagueness, and a lack of definition of the words that derive the form of the premises. But I'd say it isn't even that. There is just no relationship between a triangle and parallel lines and verticals. Well, the parallel line is the triangle not being formed within the 12th axiom, triangle axiom. So this may be a new form of paralogism, just a completely non-related paralogism that's obviously been made up by Stark-Odder. Sorry, Stark, but it's obviously a massive mistake that's gone on here within globe logic. Perfect example of globe logic. Paralogism. A completely unrelated premise with a completely fallacious conclusion, but that conclusion being globe. As long as you can end up with it being globe. I mean, you start off with the imaginometry axioms, then it starts off with it being a globe, then you can end up with it, obviously. Because the only place where verticals aren't parallel is in the place where you've got rid of the triangle axiom. You've done away with triangles having 180 degrees, which is an impossibility. So I don't know where to go with that. Anybody else think of any other paralogisms, or anybody else want to comment on what they possibly think of what Stark-Odder and his relating? I guess he's relating triangles having more than 180 degrees to verticals not being parallel. What would you think? I think by this logic, if you can't find a triangle with more than 180 degrees, then verticals have to be parallel. Would it not? I mean, it's fallacious logic, but where would you find a triangle with more than 180 degrees? Stark-Odder. Writing down numbers just doesn't work either. It's a big day today on the logic side. you go. So, what does anybody think? If you process the logic of the how you can have a relationship of premises, if then mind your P's and Q's. Emma says, this is why you should mind your P's and Q's. This is why it was said. Mind your P. If all parallels are vertical, then triangles have 180 degrees. Triangles do have 180 degrees. Therefore, all verticals are parallel. I would say. But I mean, that's a really bad formulation of logic. The two things bear no relationship to each other.
Yeah, like if you had verticals being not parallel, obviously you could still have a triangle with 180 degrees.
Yeah.
They're not related in any way.
Triangles provably have 180 degrees. So, I mean, how do you put yourself in a position where you write a logical statement like that? You've got to be pretty sure that triangles don't have 180 degrees, right? Somebody's told you in order for you to write that. Otherwise, why write it? Oh, what's that about? Logic is it's a dangerous tool for a sharp mind, and it's gonna cause some distress to people, obviously, with models. I mean, the models dictated this to him.
So I wonder then, if you can measure a triangle with more than 180 degrees, ridiculousness aside, can you draw it up as well? Since we're talking geometry, obviously you should be able to draw it, right?
Yeah, you would have to be able to draw it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, because you're measuring the angle between 3 points, three angles making a triangle. You'd have to be able to draw up a triangle, wouldn't you?
I'd hope so. I say, the globe science and globe logic, globe mathematics, says a lot of things, but doesn't seem to make sense. It really doesn't make any sense to me. Two completely unrelated things. A triangle and parallels. Verticals.
There is another nice axiom that plays into this. Two straight lines cannot enclose a space. So when do the diverging lines actually meet to form the third angle? I would have to have somebody draw this up for me.
Impossible.
Impossible.
Yeah. Yep. As is, like, logic states, right? Logic would tell you that that's a really bad logical statement. I mean, I don't know if anybody's listening or who's listening. What relationship could a triangle possibly have to a vertical? The triangle stays the same triangle, regardless of what a vertical is. or its position in relation to a vertical. And since each of the points, the 3 points where the angles are measured, are just points, then there is no relationship to a vertical, because it's only at a point. The 3 points produce the coplanar. 3 coplanar points make a triangle. They are the 3 points. You can't measure those angles, can you? On a azimuthal plane. But I mean, the idea of the argument, I think what he's trying to do is develop an argument into verticals being parallel. Because as you know, that's what they're after. They want to have an argument about verticals being parallel or not parallel, because their model dictates to them that verticals cannot be parallel. On the globe model, there is 0 parallel verticals. As Rumpus calls it, a differing angle of down.
Yeah, I forgot he said that.
Which is very eloquently put, right? Verticals. All verticals have a differing angle of down.
Good one, Rumpus.
Yeah. Which on a model obviously has no... There are no parallel verticals. Which means it's every direction. Anybody asks you what... On a globe model, what direction is vertical? You say every direction is the correct answer. All of them. All of the directions at the same time. It's perfect, the globe model. The globe model set up for fallacies and contradictions. You have to be able to have acceptable contradictions, acceptable paradoxes. And the logic behind this fallacious argument of Stark Odders is I would like to see more Globers take it up, because I would be fun, like Saragaki says. I would love to see a drawing of one of these triangles on the, do an architectural drawing or whatever of when they measure it up. Get a cartography version of it. But that would be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard anyway, a lot of people claim this. Triangles with more than 180, like several different individuals. So I would assume that you would have several different ways of going about drawing this triangle to present it.
Yes, triangles with more than 180 degrees, and of course, if you have triangles with more than 180 degrees, then you've broken logic and geometry, and therefore anything can happen. You've made a explosive system explode. Your truth values have gone, and of course anything can happen. Verticals can be not parallel easily if you can have triangles with more than 180 degrees. Sum of two right angles. Boris says, like I said, Gem Panda was the first person to tell me that you could go to the top of 3 different mountains and measure the other mountains angular wise and add up those 3 angles, and you would have more than 180 degrees every time, says Jem Panda. So Ragaski says we've heard a lot of people, which Starcodder's obviously heard that. He's got that from McToon, so McToon said it. Larry Scott, Larry GPS. He told my son about triangles having more than 180 degrees. All triangles, Larry said. It's not possible to have a triangle with 180 degrees. It's hard to measure, but he says you have to make it bigger, which is another fantastic claim. I'm pretty sure paralogisms are everywhere in this conversation, all based around the law of identity, which is when we go to the trivium. Well, I guess we're starting it now. The idea of this building an understanding of what we're dealing with is to get logic, to understand logic. Geometry is a good tool, but the base and the understanding of why is it needed, is to give us an understanding of what exactly it is we're talking about. And this is the reason. So we don't end up with completely unrelated mind your P's and Q's, right? So, like we say, P, if P, right? That's what we call the antecedent. The antecedent, fancy word for that which must come first. That's your starting block. That's what you start off with. And then, so you have your antecedent, that which must come first. So if that which must come first, and then consequent, Q. And the consequent is something that must follow the antecedent. If you have to check your P's and Q's, because you have to make sure that your antecedent is a valid sound antecedent and the consequent does follow from it. And in this case, there just is no following on. If verticals are parallel, then triangles have 180 degrees. I mean, there's no connection.
Non sequitur.
None. So, like, any conclusion that you draw from it has got to be fallacious. But, I mean, like you say, non sequitur, but there isn't even a paralogism for something that just doesn't follow. I think when they were writing this, Kant was writing it. He wasn't allowing for people just completely not understanding the basis of how you form an argument. He mustn't have had the idea of this model being able to dictate to people an outcome that they have already, I don't know, what do you call, received? Is it the received opinion that verticals are not parallel? So in order for you to get there, you just have to make up some sort of a thing, say that it's logic, tell people they don't understand it very much, but you've already come to the received opinion and everybody else has the same opinion at the end, so therefore doesn't matter whether your logic actually works because you've still come to the conclusion that you wanted anyway. I think that's a lot of the way this conversation goes. Not saying that it hasn't been fun trying to work it all out, but try it out. Just try asking people about it. Guarantee you won't be able to have a conversation with a globe model believer about Starkadder's proof. Starkadder has a name, a reputation within the globe community. He's one of the mathematicians. Obviously not a much of a logic guy, which they supposedly have Beddy. But Beddy's not said anything to Starkadder about this. I don't know whether he's not spotted it, or whether he's not allowed to say anything against Starkadder. I don't know how the hierarchy goes, how the Globe Council work it. Whether one Glober is allowed to go against another one if they're different fields. This is obviously geometry, logic.
Sounds pretty good though. I mean, it looks good when I read it. I mean,
yeah,
it was cool.
Were you fools? Like, did you?
Yeah, because I was thinking of like an angle above, like what do they call it? Those, when you're taking it just a straight angle to the top, and then I was looking at the different angles, and it looked neat and interesting. I can't complain. With the pictures, the diagrams, and everything. Got me going. Got me thinking. It's like a trick they have. It's like tricky with all these angles, and it looks good and all this stuff, and then at the end just put in like this sentence that basically denotes that everything you just said is BS because it can't add to 180 degrees. It's like blind you with bullshit.
Yeah, I'm guessing that at the heart of this, it relies on people trying to have the concept that triangles have more than 180 degrees. Now, I'm guessing everybody who says, "Oh, I don't like maths, I wasn't really into that," would possibly go along with the fact that triangles could have more than 180 degrees. Or I don't know. I mean, I've not really had a chance to talk to the general public about whether they think triangles can have more than 180 degrees or not. Could you have less than 180? More than 180? Don't know. I'm hoping that people are going to see the beauty of Euclid and logic and why it is what it is, and understand that triangles can only have 180 degrees. That triangles having more than 180 degrees is a mind trick. It's all about the concept of bending straight lines conceptually. And obviously you can't do that. It's just not possible. And if you're doing something conceptually, so obviously it's not real. There's only one form of geometry in reality. We call that right line geometry. It's Euclidean geometry, but just using straight lines. You can only use straight lines in reality in order to do anything. To draw a circle, you use a straight line. Shortest distance between 2 points. that gives you pi. That is a Euclidean geometric thing within logical framework in reality. And if you want to go along with a some sort of a logical semblance for you to understand, then one that you can build on and that makes sense surely should be the best way to do it. A local argument. It's all logic. You can make these straight lines. You can make a radius into a diameter. And then you can make that diameter into a radius of a bigger circle. You can just keep extending straight lines. Logic's a beautiful thing, but it's struggling for a lot of people. It's struggling for people that can't talk about it, which is I find strange. I find strange that some of the places that people have to go to not talk about simple logic and about basic simple things like triangles only having 180 and how you can prove that, and straight lines from A to B being the shortest distance between those 2 points. There is no shorter distance than a straight line, no matter what some people might think. No matter how strong their belief of a model is and what other straw man model they perceive somebody else has. We just come and talk about the reality of it. Sam seems to think in the chat that engineers have forgotten what a straight line is. They haven't. Sam, everybody knows what a straight line is. It's just a few strange people, mainly in Discord, and mainly model afflicted as well, that seem to think that there are shorter shorter distances than a straight line. I don't know. Yeah, shorter than a straight line. Some people think you can increase pi. We've had a few people say that. They have to disappear and leave for a bit once they say silly things like that. But yeah, the people who say that pi it can change. It has to change in different geometries, because obviously Euclidean geometry, it gives you pi, and they say not Euclidean geometry, some other geometry. You can't express it because there's only Euclidean geometry in reality that you can use. The rest of everybody else is conceptual with these fantasy geometries. I don't know what to say. We have to start off at the basics. And obviously it's pretty simple for us to talk about what the basics are. But we need people like Stark Odder to give us these arguments. But obviously I think because logic is so new, well, I say it's so new. It's new to this group here Obviously, if the Globers have had their logic sorted and the Flat Earthers have had their logic sorted, it's one of those things that you have to discover for yourself. And then once you've discovered it, you have to then start practicing it and discussing it, working out whether you can formulate logic. Because it's not as easy as it seems. Swapping, I think it's a new type of thought process. Takes a little bit of extra thinking. I think it might have been the guys in the white robes walking around thinking a lot. Maybe where people think about this, but I mean, most people you're with yourself all day, thinking about all sorts of things. I think logic is just some sort of a way for you to practice putting together these thoughts and these understandings to help you to be able to come to an understanding within yourself. It definitely helped me be able to process information, order it, and then formulate it to come to a conclusion that you can feel is sound and valid for yourself. If you never get to that place to be able to do that, formulate the logic or come to a conclusion, and then be able to enact that and process it in reality, then you may be missing out on a proof, an understanding of coming to a conclusion. It's sort of like mathematics would give you the idea of 2 + 2 = 4. Well, you do that, but within a statement. You just word things. It's like logic is a midway point between words and grammar and numbers. I think. So it's hard to express how logic's used and how logic Does anybody else think of any other fallacies? Because I mean, I think that's what we're going to be dealing with, is most of the fallacies that we've got, it's spotting them and being able to point at them and come up with helping people to see a fallacy whenever there's one there. Because if you're unaware of it, then you may just be dealing with paralogism. Until somebody points the fallacy out, you may not see it. And pointing that fallacy out to somebody shouldn't be offensive. You shouldn't be attacking them. Pointing out a fallacy within somebody's reasoning and talking about that should be the communication. That's how we're learning. If somebody points out a fallacy, you should be able to justify it. I mean, they may be wrongly calling it a fallacy. You might be able to justify whatever it is that you're talking about. You should be able to, if you've formulated your logic and in a way that somebody else might not be seeing. But until the conversation happens, I don't think anybody can understand. I'm unaware of how Stark Odder's managed to formulate that, and I'm betting that he won't be able to talk about it. I'm beginning to think, like Blue Marble Science did, he said that they purposely put these mistakes and contradictions within their work to catch people out. Well, I don't think they're catching us out with them. So the only people that they can be fooling, really, is the globe earthers. I'm pretty sure, like we spotted the other day, there's a guy called Earth is Life, previously called B-Ball for Life. He posts pictures of things that don't really make any sense. They don't mean anything. And now he's the only person that posts these pictures. But he thinks whatever he has is a valid argument. I don't understand what he's talking about or why he posts the pictures. He posts them to me and Rakia quite a lot. I don't know what they're there for. He posts them to SE as well, all the time. He can't talk to us about what the argument is, but he thinks obviously that there's a valid argument there. But I don't understand what it is. We just try and talk about logic and geometry, reality. I mean, people post pictures of waves and sea, water and boats and stuff. I mean, it doesn't compute. I don't understand the reasoning behind it, and until somebody can come and explain the logical argument behind it, most of this stuff doesn't formulate to me. I can't process what it is that their arguments are. Oh, I'm starting to clip. Is that within Discord? I'll just jump out. Is that better? I think I'll be all right on the YouTube. Yeah, probably. Yeah, logic. Come on, guys, help us out. I don't know where to go from here. I think I can't think of any others, unless we can think of any other logical fallacy arguments that have been pushed quite recently.
Well, in the open text channel, the one argument that's been going all day is that they can draw perpendicular lines to the circumference of a circle.
Yes.
That's literally the one.
To do that. A tangent, or like a tangentless angle to a...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now...
The tangent is always only brought up as oh shit, yeah, you're right, I need a tangent for this. Yeah. Hold on, let me just insert it after the fact.
Of course we were talking about a tangent.
Obviously, guy.
Yeah, the angle they want to be measured here. At the circle. Which, yeah, there you go. A right angle to a circle. But, I mean, is that because Starkadder's the guy who has the triangle and the verticals? So is this just a distraction to get you away from that? You know, like, they do have different tactics.
Oh, you should have seen it earlier. It was hilarious because we were just talking between ourselves about Wally's 90-degree angle to the curve. And then all of a sudden, here comes Stark Other in to defend it. And we're like, well, it's ridiculous, blah, 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 you know how it goes. And then Wally comes in later, out of nowhere, and he's like, no, the diagram doesn't show that. It shows the perpendicular relationship between the tangent and the radius. So he jumped ship on his own diagram right then and there, but Starkadder kept defending his perpendicular to the circle, even after Wally had admitted straight up that no, that's not what I'm trying to depict.
Yeah. Yeah, two straight lines for an angle, like we say, and that there is not two straight lines. A circle is not a straight line, like we keep saying. It may sound ridiculous us saying these silly things. A circle is not a straight line. And if a circle is not a straight line and you need two straight lines for an angle, then you cannot have an angle to a curve. He did say it was in Euclid as well. I mean, that's... That's good. Okay, chat saying they want to bust this song while I go and make a brew, which I'm very thankful for. And which one's been requested? Brenda and Sean. The multi-mix of We All Know You're Insane. Okay. As requested by the chat. Buster and We All Know You're Insane. I'll be back in a couple of minutes.
I mean, there isn't a fucking scale on this goddamn planet that can measure how fucking pissed I am right the fuck now.
You may think I'm mentally unstable. Hell, you'd agree with my therapist.
I have to calm down.
But I don't care anymore.
You triggered me. Big whoopsie thrill. Any fucking idiot can do that. I get to fucking talk or not. You fucker! Shut up! Shut the fuck up! You're a fucking troll. Right here! Have you fucking finished asking your stupid bloody question? Shut up!
What are you talking about? Ask the
Shut the fuck up!
Get out of here!
Shut up! Shut up! Shut the fuck up!
Learn the fucking scientific method or get the fuck out of here!
Shut up!
Get out of here,
Randy! What the fuck is wrong with you, Randy?
And yes,
Shut the fuck up!
you may think I'm mentally unstable. Hell, you'd agree with my therapist. But I don't care
Get out
anymore.
of here, Rakia!
Then fuck off!
You're not doing shit. You're not
Fuck
doing
off!
shit. Yeah, that's how you get your little jollies off. You think that you're in charge because you make people get angry at you.
How many fucking times do I gotta sit here and go through this shit with you?
Every single one of you, shut the fuck up. Just shut up.
If this person came and told you the world was a ball, what would you say?
Fuck off! Shit. Shut the fuck up!
Fucking argument for an hour. I sat here bored to fucking tears.
Shut the fuck up!
You may think I'm mentally unstable. Hell, you'd agree with my therapist.
If you put an object farther away from the lens, farther in front of the camera, light from that object is going to hit the front of the lens stack at a different angle. That depends on the same object at a greater distance. Have a smaller angular size. Right here!
Get out of here, Rakia.
I've been doing this for 4 fucking years. You didn't fucking get it by now. Get the fuck out of here.
Get out of here, Rakia. Shut up! Shut the fuck up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Fuck you with your it shit. Randy, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Paradoxes and confusion. Your mind is in delusion.
Everything one of you, shut the fuck up! Just shut the fuck up! Oh, shut up! You're pieces of shit. Every one of you is a piece of shit. All of you, shut up. Every single one of you, shut the fuck up. Just shut up. All of you, you're pieces of shit. Every one of you is a piece of shit. You're human excrement. You're the shit that comes out of your fucking bones. David, you're the stupidest motherfucker on the earth. That's all you are, is your shit. All of you are
That
shit.
depends on the tangent of the angle.
No, shut up. You shut up, Randy. Shut up. Every one of you, shut the fuck up. You're all shit. Randy, what the fuck is wrong with you, Randy? Fucker. That's all you are, is your shit. All of you are shit.
I'm not going to let you try and infect other people. Then fuck off! Fuck off! Go away! With your mendacious, delusional worldview. I'm not going to let it happen.
Every single one of you, shut the fuck up. Just shut up. All of you, you're pieces of shit. Every one of you is a piece of
Depends on the
shit.
tangent of the angle.
Motherfucker! I'm so pissed off right now. You have no fucking clue.
I will do that if you will shut the fuck up.
Oh, now it's triggered.
Well, fuck you with your itch shit.
Then fuck off! Fuck off! Go away! You don't care about reality! You don't care about reality! Okay, you don't care about reality. That's okay, not everybody has to care. There's no law.
That depends on the tangent of the angle.
Shut up! You triggered me. Big whoopsie drill. Any fucking idiot can do that.
I get fucking emasculated. I'm pretty fucking pissed off. I fucking still like him, but he fucking pissed me off.
Paradoxes and confusion. Your mind is in delusion.
You triggered me. Big whoopsie drill. Any fucking idiot can do that. Any fucking idiot can do that.
Stack! Angle! Select them down the back of the lens stack! Depends on the angle! Or select in the front of the lens stack! Right here!
Righto.
Kick him. I want him banned.
Right here!
He's done.
What are you talking about? I asked a simple
Right
question.
here!
Get out of here, Rakia.
Shut the fuck up!
And we are back. Tuesday night, Logic night, a bit of a buster break. Just going back through all of this stuff that we've had here today in the open text on the Discord. We do have a lot of active chats going on most of the time, mainly based around logic and geometry, because that's what we deal with, and they're the people, the globe scientists that we tend to have coming around, are always arguing for a model, whereas we just come at these arguments hopefully from reality. But wow, you've been at this all day, haven't you, you guys? I've been making a video or two today, and wow, look at this. Right, so the argument today, I'm trying to go back. I don't know how far back it started. I think it started this morning, didn't it? Let's see how far we can go back. 3 o'clock. These are half-hour jumps. 2 o'clock. Logic. Yeah. Okay. So. Here we go. So it starts off with Stark Otter coming over with talking about the elements and basic geometry and how he knows much better than we do. Obviously, this is the backwards and forwards. And then Stark Otter says, okay, here's why think 3.6 lets you do a 90 degree to a curve. He says, because Euclid defines an angle as being between any two lines and then specifies rectilinear angle to be in the case with two straight lines. So Stark Otter thinks that an angle can be between any two lines. It doesn't really matter. To him what a line actually is or anything. So very ambiguous geometry and wording within this argument, because this particular argument may seem a little bit strange for people listening in as to exactly what's going on here. Well, this angle of a triangle having 180 degrees and the understanding of what a triangle is with having 180 degrees is based around an argument from reality. Now, there is a problem when talking to people that have a model about a basic simple geometry, because they need this angle to a curve in order to produce an angle of more than a triangle with more than 180 degrees. But it's a misunderstanding of how actual geometry and Euclidean geometry works. There's a guy in the chat talking to FE. Just talking to people. I don't know what AFE is, but we're just talking to people about this stuff. He's put here, Euclid's Elements printed in 1482. Can you spot the curvilinear biangle? Did you spot that? Did anybody manage to spot that within? He says, can anybody read that?
Yeah, that's the bigger question, isn't it?
Where's the curvilinear biangle? He's not talking about Vesica Pisces, is he? Because I can't see anywhere else. No, I can't. Starkadder, thank you very much for that, but no, a curvilinear biangle. Strange places people have to go to. I've never even heard of that word. Curvilineal biangle. Almost sounds like a new gender or something, that one. Right. So there's basically been an argument. Well, I always say, has it been an argument? Or just in vagueness? He says an empty claim what is actually written in the book and what you can have in your possession. He said not the actual angle is defined and used. I mean, what exactly is his argument? That it says it in a book and he can misrepresent what an angle is. Is that his argument? Struggling to see. Definitions. Just angle of segments. We've got this. There is an app if anybody's interested. It's called Euclidia, and it's like a geometry app you get on your phone, tablet or whatever. Download it. It's good, and there will be some understandings of how these angles are used and the lines and whatnot. It's a very good tool to help understand what can be used and how these lines and whatnot can be used. It would be good for Starkadder to be able to get that as well. Everybody should get it. It's a free app, Euclidia. I'll start. Oh yeah, I'll put a thing up. We'll go through that. Show everybody what it's about. He said. What did I say? He said non-rectilinear angles are still a thing. This is Starkadder says this. Now, a rectilinear angle is an angle. Well, it's the inclination of one straight line to another. It's the amount of turn between two straight lines. That's a rectilinear angle, as in that's what an angle is. Now, a non-rectilinear angle would be a not angle. So anything that's not an angle can be considered a non-rectilinear angle. And again, I'm not too sure what sort of an argument that is by saying non-rectilinear angles are still a thing. And then I put a thing as in not an angle. I keep going to it, but I've got a cup here. Now, this cup is not a rectilinear angle. It's a non-rectilinear angle because it's not an angle. I'm not too sure whether that's what he means, but it's not much of an argument when you're basing about what a rectilinear angle is and how you can measure an angle. To say there are things that aren't angles. And I'm not too sure what sort of an argument that is. And good luck to you if that's one of your methods that you want to use. And I said to him, no, they're not. Because they're not a thing. And he put, yes, they are. Why do you insist on lying about trivial geometry, Bev? So when I say there are no such thing as non-rectilinear angles, he says I'm lying. He doesn't have to justify it, obviously, because there are definitely things that aren't angles. Not much of an argument. And I would say it's not much to call somebody a liar for either. But, you know, these people, what they're like. Again. Is he going through all of the propositions of... Yeah, he is. He's going through the propositions of Euclidean geometry, the circles. With the ratio of pi, obviously, because the Euclidean. Angles. Defined by Euclid, Book 1, Definition 8. Used by Euclid in Book 3, Proposition 16. Wow, sorry if the geometry hurts your feelings. Too bad. Can't be honest about something so trivial as Euclid's basic definitions. He's just going to definitions. I mean, if anybody wants to know who are the people that use definitions to sort things out, Starkadder. Definitions. Basic definitions. Here we go again. Anyone who can read and see I am correct. Euclid does define and use non-rectilinear angles. You can only use an angle. You can't use a not angle. Starkadder is terrible. It is a fact. It doesn't matter if it is used once. The argument is that he used them at all. There's no such thing as an angle. A non-rectilinear angle. Crazy. Did he give a proposition where he thinks it's been used? Maybe used. Wow, I'd like to see that. Oh, and now here comes Wally in. Just add proposition 16 and 17 to the mix, and you can see that the tangent is perpendicular to the radius. So this is where Wally's comes in and adds in the straight line again, so you can have two straight lines and a rectilinear angle.
He's the captain of the ship. He's the one who made the original diagram. And here he comes to jump ship because it's sinking.
Yeah. He's got Starkadder to defend his ridiculous claim, and now he's coming in and adding the straight line back again. Which is the rectilinear angle. It goes quiet. And Starkadder says, do you agree that Euclid defines angles between any lines? Any lines. But he's asking, do you agree? No, an angle is between two straight lines.
He wants to go into the proposition 316, obviously, it's already gone there. And then he wants to go to the definition of plane angles in book 1. Trying to conflate between the two. And it's kind of a nice tactic, because when you're doing it in the middle of a conversation, you're the only one who knows what you yourself is talking about, right? So it's easy to confuse the person you're talking to when you're doing it that way.
Definitely with geometry, right? Not even more so with geometry, because you have to be able to work through it yourself. So talking about it and arguing about it in text form, there's no way that this could ever be discussed like this at all. Especially when you're talking about definitions. It says, do you agree that proposition 316 is about such an angle? I don't think so. I think 316 is about a perpendicular, isn't it? And no other straight line could be drawn as to cut the circle. Is that 16?
Yeah, you cannot place any other straight lines in between the tangent and the circle without cutting the circle. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, so that there's no non-rectilinear angles within that at all. It was just it's sort of a proof that you can only have the tangent can only be perpendicular to the point it touches for the radius, right? It's a proof that is perpendicular at that point to the radius. The radius is one straight line, and then the tangent has to be perpendicular at that point, because if it's not perpendicular, then it will cut the surface. I think that's what proposition 316 says. Book 3, proposition 16.
Yeah, it can only be a tangent if it's perpendicular to the radius. If not, it will cut the circle and no longer be a tangent.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I choose to see that if you draw a line anywhere on a circle that just touches the circumference, at the point that it touches the circumference, if you then draw a line to the center, that will be perpendicular. Has to be, otherwise you would end up cutting, that tangent can't go in any other position in relation to the radius point that it's touching. They call it the tangent point.
Yeah, it goes both ways, yeah. Has to be perpendicular to the radius. If it is only touching the circle at one point, then at that point it would be perpendicular to the radius, yes.
316, like he says there, if you want to look over it. But I mean, yeah, we have. It's a really bad argument that I think's been brought up by WS. It's an old school WS argument that relates back to the angle to a curve that he made up, that isn't there. It's in, I think it was Playfair. Was it Playfair that messed about with it, or was it Playfair that fixed it after they've messed about with it? In one of the rewrites, somebody wrote something that I know Heath wasn't too happy about. There was quite a few things that Heath wrote about these sort of plays that have been made by, obviously, Starkadder and the likes. People that want to play this geometric argument game logical argument. It's bad, but I mean, it has been done before, and these arguments are nothing new. People will still have them because people nowadays are paralogists. They like to make up fallacious arguments, but don't see the fallaciousness behind the argument. It's a fallacious conclusion that's just derived from a received opinion. I like that. A received opinion. That's very from Beddy. That's people are paralogists and people who the globe science and globe logic community, in order for them to not have to put too much thought into everything, it's already been done before. They have what we call shadow giants, and shadow giants write their words down, and the words that the shadow giants write are called the holy script of the received opinion. These received opinions can be given to the globe scientists and the globe logicians, and then they're sort of assimilated, incorporated into their logical system. And the received opinion is the conclusions that you have to come to. So any sort of illogical statement, as long as you end up with the received opinion, then it's classed as globe logic, globe science. Well, I just don't want to say globe logic of the model. Anybody who has a model can have a received opinion like this, been given to you by a shadow giant. And the shadow giant doesn't need to be that big, actually. It could be a tiny little shadow giant nobody else has ever heard of. In fact, you could make yourself a shadow giant, possibly if you become the Imaginometer, then you could become yourself a shadow giant and receive an opinion from yourself. I like it. I just made that up then. That sounds good, doesn't it? So the argument's been raging all day. He said, I already said that Euclid defined perpendicular for straight lines only. Do you think that somehow means that 90-degree angles are not allowed?
I mean, what? Who argues like that?
What does that even mean? I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I already said that Euclid defined perpendicular for straight lines only. Do you think that somehow means that 90-degree angles are not allowed? Perpendicular is straight lines. Why would you say that 90 degrees aren't allowed when you've just said perpendicular and straight lines? Do you really find any angle between any lines is defined by Euclid confusing? Is there might be a language barrier here somewhere? Do you think? I'm not too sure Starkadder's language would be English. Do you really find any angle between any lines is defined by Euclid confusing? Wait, what? No. I don't like mathematically a line is straight, isn't it? So
yeah, it has to be.
Not too sure what that means. Like any lines would be like straight lines. He doesn't think that any lines just means any sort of squiggly lines, right? He can't be thinking that's in Euclid, that Euclid just went any lines, any angles, doesn't really matter. Don't even think he wrote that anyway. No utility. It's so called and of no utility. Yeah, that's right, Mike. It says the top part's about the discussion. Again, what I am claiming is all written in the elements, and the simple parts of that, I had nothing of my own here. It's about telling me that you've written in the elements since you can't seem to extract the information for yourself. He's going over stuff again. Book 1, definition 8 clearly says lines. This means both straight and curved. I'm not too sure it does it?
To me, there's where he did the switch, right? Yeah. He's trying to say where in Proposition 316, he's talking about one specific kind of a thing there. And now he's jumping to definition 8. So, back and forth between the two. Who knows what he's actually talking about when he's talking like that?
Yeah, but in book 1, definition 8 obviously comes before definition 9. And this is one that builds upon the other, right? I mean, in order for you to go through Euclid, when you do go through Euclid, they have theorems and I don't know, what did he call them? They break them up into two, isn't it? And one of them builds upon what that was before, and one of them lays down a new.
One of them is a theorem.
Yeah.
The theorem is where you get the logic step by step to prove whatever it is, right? But the problem, they call it, is where you do an actual construction of something.
Yeah, you reinforce something within a problem, or the problem is to build the new one. But that works through the definitions. So the definitions of what he's talking about there, book 8, is laying down what an angle is. And a 9 is the building upon that of, fully defining it into a usable concept. Like this one says that, he says lines means both straight and curved. It doesn't. It just means lines. And then the next one comes to define it as straight lines and an angle and the inclination between those two. It makes it very clear what an angle is, whereas the one that comes before it was building the grounding for it. It's only on at 8 and 9, and it's very early on in the definitions.
And doesn't also definition 8, is that where it says plane angle, if I'm not mistaken?
I think so. Yeah, an angle within a plane, is it? I'll get it.
Yeah, two lines within the same plane. So that's why I'm wondering how you can do a perpendicular to a sphere, but then they are in the same plane in order for him to invoke that definition in the first place. I'm not sure I see the correlation there.
Yeah, it says, a plane angle is the inclination of two lines to one another in a plane which meet together but are not in the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I don't think that encompasses a perpendicular to a sphere, though. That's where I think Starkadder is pulling some magic trick out of his behind.
It doesn't mention a circle or anything either. It just mentions two lines within a plane.
Within the same plane, yeah.
Yeah. And if you work through the definitions, a point, a line, extremities of a line of points, a straight line is that which lies evenly between extreme points, and then a superficies. The extremities of a superficies are lines. A plane superficies is that which any 2 points being taken, the straight line between them lies wholly in that superficies. Brilliant. A plane angle is the inclination of two lines to one another. There's no mention of a curve.
Nope.
Within any of this, there's no mention of a curve. I don't know where they inject a curve into it. They're just saying a plane rectilinear angle is the inclination of two straight lines to one another. It's just building upon it to make it very clear what the understanding is, that when you can base and go forward with it. So, yeah. Thank you, Starcodder, helping us out with this. And it's been, like, it's a good day, right? When you can argue with somebody, like, all day. I mean, 8 hours? A good, I mean, I know it started early on. May not have been that long, but a good 3 or 4 hours. Backwards and forwards. He's got here, any two lines. That includes the case, one straight line and the circumference of a circle. I think the circumference of a circle is just the series of points. And he may not be understanding that. And think that the actual circle is a line. I'm not too sure it is.
No, the circle is contained by the circumference, is it not? It's the area within it.
Yeah.
It's the entire figure, right? Planar figure also.
Yeah, it's the boundary.
Yeah, the circumference is, yeah.
And he's gone here. How about book 3, definition 7? Another definition, right? From another book, book 3.
Just go all over the place.
Then it says, do you disagree that this one is about the angle between a straight line and the circumference? Well, book 3, if anybody doesn't know, it's the book about circles. Purposely, a book about circles. So at the beginning of every book, if it is needed to have a definition of something that hasn't been talked about before, then obviously you have to talk about the things you're going to be using within that book. And as in book 3 is the book about circles, then it would be good to notice everything that needs to be talked about. And number 7 is the angle of a segment that is contained by a straight line and the circumference of a circle. Well, that's will be useful at a later date. But if we could just say it's not used as an angle within anywhere within the propositions of Euclid, that particular definition. It's one of those building block definitions to get you to number 8, definition number 8, and how you can use that particular straight line within a segment. It's just a way to describe it as a building block to go through it. Can't get any clearer. So Ollie Starcodder thinks showing a definition with his interpretation of a definition that never gets used within any propositions, thinks he can win an argument, which I'm guessing only he has built the argument. There is no argument there other than his definitional argument, where he's misinterpreted a definition into thinking that he can then have an angle to a curve. He's not fully worked it through yet. But if we could have a conversation, then we might be able to come to a conclusion that he has made a bit of a mistake. I'd like to help him out with the conversation about this. This is a very old conversation that WS has been dodging for a couple of years now, maybe 3 years. No, like I say, nobody wants to talk about geometry. He says it's used in Proposition 316. Well, it's not, and you can tell that he's not done that. He's never worked through it. He thinks Euclid just put it in as a definition. Has he got... So you're going to ignore Euclid used in 316 again? It's not. Again, he says you're lying again. Like,
just keep in mind for the viewers on YouTube right now, the base of his argument is that he can draw a right angle between the circumference of a circle and a straight line. That's what he is defending. So, yeah, just keep that in mind.
yeah, like a lollipop.
Yeah, exactly,
That's
yes.
two right angles somewhere, or, you know.
Yep. Like a lollipop, I like that.
And they began. It calls somebody a liar. Euclid defined and used an angle, but he doesn't, because it's 90 degrees and it's a tangent. The tangent isn't 90 degrees to the radius. That 316 is the proof that that will always be true, and the reason why it's always true. But it's two straight lines, one being the tangent and the other one being the radius. He's thinking something about an extension of the radius past the circumference. It's like he's completely forgot about the tangent. He's going to remove the tangent. So you're saying Euclid did not demonstrate the angle of a segment, semicircle in this case, greater than any acute angle. Wow. Greater than any acute angle. Wow. Like I say, you Starkadder, if you want to come and have a discussion about this sort of stuff, I'd be willing to go through this. I think it's well needed within the community. The basic understanding of this geometry and the discussion that we can have about it. Perpendicular, how straight lines are needed in order to measure angles. And what did I put? He put angle to a circle. You keep insisting on certain random crap. I put, are you okay? Please don't nutsack yourself due to a model for us. It's really not that important, is it? And if anybody doesn't know, a nutsack is when you delve into your mind a bit too deeply, end up wrapping yourself up in knots around your own argument, because the model dictates something and there's a contradiction that you have to put yourself through in order to come to an understanding, but the contradiction means that you struggle with it. So a nutsack. That's called nutsacking yourself. It's much easier for you to point it out than to explain it. You're much better off when you see the fallacies caused within the nutsack. He says, we're just discussing circles, lines, angles, you know, Euclid stuff and reading comprehension, apparently, which is part of the trivium. Grammar, rhetoric. He says, how come you and your friends are so afraid of angles between straight lines and circles?
So he do know what the argument is in reality. He knows what we're talking about, but he doesn't want to go there.
And you're so afraid of angles between straight lines and circles. That's amazing. I'm not afraid of them. And then somebody's put the tangent back in again.
Oh yeah, no, this entire thing is happening after Wally has already told him that that's not what's going on, but he's still defending it like that's what actually is going on. It's ridiculous.
Oh, let's look at Stark Odder says, what disagreement? Wally preferred to think of the angle to the tangent instead of the angle to the circumference. So he's thinking, well, what Wally can just think that if he wants. Wally's allowed to. Wally's thinking of it to a tangent, whereas he's thinking of it to the circumference. It says, spoiler alert, those angles are equal. They're not. One's to a straight line and one's to a curve. They're definitely not equal. This is the whole point of Proposition 316, to show that it's the same to take the angle to the tangent at that location, which is easier to work with. Wow. I'll leave it to you guys to figure why non-rectilinear wasn't used in the rest of the elements. No way. He's missing who's put him in that position? Come on, guys. WS, who's pushed Stark Odder through to put this out? He thinks it's not to a tangent. Take the angle to the tangent at that location, which is easier to work with. No way. Stark Odder, we need to have a chat about this. This is obviously a long-running thing. I've been wanting to talk to WS about this for quite a while. Anybody, in fact, any of the globe geometers, any globe logicians, any globe science guys willing to take a crack at Euclid? Book, you can stick with book 3, Proposition 16. Do 16, 17, 18 if you want to do a series of the 3. Let's just lock it in and make sure we understand what we're talking about. Please come and have a discussion about this. This will help us out within the logical understanding of what's going on within the argument. This is Euclid. There should be no argument about this. There should just be a discussion of us trying to understand what each other's trying to go over and talk about. Ad hom there. Oh, the homie Don. The homie Don says, here you go, proof that sextants work to be provided on Wednesday. See you then. Has anybody seen this from Toon? The new challenge that McToon's put out. It's pretty clever. Do we want to publicise it? Do we want to... I think we might go over it when he actually does it. But luckily enough for everybody here, that the Globers are going to be showing us how they do the sextant thing. Show how they do. Apparently you can do it with your phone now. And just use a Theodolite app on your mobile phone. You don't need sextants or anything like that. Celestial, he says, wasn't from the ocean. Celestial navigation works everywhere. Which is genius. Celestial navigation works everywhere. Celestial navigation doesn't care if you're in land or water. You might have to have a land sextant or a water set. I'm not too sure. I'm not really good at that sort of stuff. To hold me Don. The proof will be the part where someone pretty quickly gonna get the coordinates. So the globe guys can do it. I think he says he's going to put 100 quid up for whoever can do it the quickest. It's how celestial navigation works. To homie Don. We've been asking if anybody of the celestial navigation expert clubs wanted to come and give us a presentation and show us exactly how they do this, because we're just aware of the angle measurement device, and we say you can do fuck all with an angle. So there must be some other thing that you have in order to help you do that sort of stuff. It says your line of sight into the horizon is not parallel to the horizon. Your line of sight to the horizon is not parallel to the horizon. That's what the dip corrections are for. Interesting. Wednesday at 8 o'clock apparently. Is that tomorrow? Maybe US time. I think that's when he's going to be releasing the coordinates of the angles that he's done. That's Rick Toon, obviously. Where's the premise? The fact that we're using a globe to get our position using celestial navigation. With the globe, the ability you have is you can use it as an old school GPS. Which is really strange because the GPS was based upon like local surveying elevation measurements that weren't based on anything to do with the lights in the sky. All the benchmarks and all of that. So that's really strange that they can do that. Good luck to him though. Good luck to him. They have a margin of error. It introduces a margin of error as included in all measurements. They the globe community also, I'm not too sure if everybody knows about this, but they have to have errors It's a must error situation, a non-zero error. They have to have a figure there for errors, which is a great way to explain these sort of things to people. Why are there errors? Because there has to be. It's built in. It's an axiom. Oh, Slice Barcane. Oh, Dahomey Don. Is he shilling for Slice Barcane? Looks like it. Celestial Navigation. So Dahomey Dons took over from Wally and Stark Otter, has he? And started chilling for McToon. I'm not. I'll watch his video of the guy. Obviously, when McToon puts out his challenge and he gets a Glober to do his test for him, and they win the $100. That Glober will be the go-to guy that explains how they do the globe GPS trick to find out where you are. I would say that if you're a navigator though and you don't know where you are, you are a pretty bad navigator. I'd say you'd have to be lost to not know where you are. Especially if you're setting off from a port somewhere. Although you could do that, couldn't you? You could say, look how clever I am. This is where we are. And everyone would be going, yeah, we're docked at port, mate. You just ask people where we are. We got some new people in the chat. Oh, here, Dahomey Don puts, the way you measure perpendicular to a curve is with the tangent. It's always been that way. So, Dahomey Don has put the tangent there again. And where does that tangent line and the curve intersect at the same point? Engineers and mathematicians have been measuring angles to curves for a while now. Wow. It's a on-off thing, isn't it? A switch. You need a tangent to measure the angle, but then he says engineers and mathematicians have been measuring angles to curves for a while now. Using a tangent, so an angle to a straight line. Not to the curve.
Maybe they're Googleistic lines.
Of equipotential. Or, yeah, Googleistic lines of... I've lost it.
I forgot.
Yeah. Blue's not used it enough. We need to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been going on all day, this. Angle to a curve, to a tangent, to a curve, tangent. Tangent, if you put the tangent there, then there's a curve, but you have to have a curve there to put a tangent there. But then you can take the tangent away and pretend that the angle's still there.
Yep.
It's called a turf, Bev. We've heard that before.
Yeah.
We heard that ages ago. It's turf. From a baller, nonetheless.
Oh, here we go. This is Dahomey Don. Not P, and not P. What?
Yeah, I do regret not pointing that out. I should have pressed him on it, but I didn't at the moment. I should have done that.
Not P, brackets, P, and not P.
Yep.
What? That P shouldn't be there.
Absolutely
should be
not.
not P and not P. Yeah, but again, the way you measure perpendicular to a curve is with a tangent to that curve. The tangent line is defined by a point on the curve such that the line only intersects at that point. Me saying open up a textbook is not an ad hom, it's a source, so there isn't any more confusion. The tangent line is defined by a point on the curve such that the line only intersects at that point. It can't intersect. It wouldn't be a tangent if it intersects. That would be a secant or a... Well, yeah, it'd have to be a secant, right? Intersecting.
Yeah. Yeah, cutting the circle at 2 points and extending past the circumference in either direction, yes.
You did address it. You put, you, sir, are an idiot. Yeah, you addressed that. So, yeah, again, like he says it's your misunderstanding, and because this is only going on in text, and there's a lot of paralogisms going on here, and nobody can discuss anything with each other. Nobody gets to have a discussion about it, and I don't think anybody actually learns from any of this stuff.
So you try, honestly, in the beginning of the conversation, you try to bring up the points that are relevant, the crucial points of the discussion. But then when all they've got is to obfuscate away from the point, you realize there isn't going to be any learning going on.
Yeah, you see, like it's obfuscation, and I think this is a definitional shift, right? Whereas they have a tangent, but they take the tangent away, and then they have the curve, but they don't know what the tangent is being, where the angle's being measured from and to. He's put the tangent is defined from the circle. They are linked together. When someone says they are measuring an angle to a curve, they are taking the tangent and getting the angle from there. So he's wanting to say now that when somebody says you're measuring an angle to a curve, you're not actually meaning curve, you're meaning tangent, which is a straight line. So you should just accept the fact that when people say something, they don't actually mean that. They mean something else, but you're meant to know that they don't mean that. They actually mean something else. I mean, that's half of the basis of this argument that we have. Everybody has their own definitions, and the way that you should have known what I meant, I was meant to say, because that's what I meant, and I may not have said that, but we don't. Colloquially, we say curve, but what we mean is tangent. Straight line.
Why not just say tangent? No, because it's globe, right?
Yeah.
Just remove the tangent and there it is.
You need to have an angle to a curve, because by saying there's a straight line there, you're allowing yourself up to the horizontal paradox. RBD face. Look at all the problems caused by that.
Yeah, that's where the homie ends up. Spoiler alert.
They always do. Cables, right? We've gone to cables, tension on the cord.
He did make one admittance, concession. He did say that because your eyes are at a higher elevation than the horizontal plane, that means that the horizon is a circle.
Oh, that sounds like globe logic.
Very much.
Because your eyes are above the horizon.
I posted in live chat.
Always. In live chat. I'll swap over to that. Answer my question, maybe, perhaps. You think the fact that our eyes will always be elevated above the horizontal plane means that the horizon is a circle? And Homie Don, obviously, replying to this one, says, yes.
Yeah, no doubt. No argument, just a simple yes. I'm happy about that. Like, big props to Homie Don for just giving me a straight up answer for once.
Do you think that was just he brushed you off with any old answer, though, right? Because you think that the fact your eyes will be elevated above the horizontal plane, obviously, is stood above it. Your eyes are definitely above. I mean, it depends which horizontal plane. I mean, obviously, you're not
the one that forms the horizon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does it mean that the horizontal horizon is a circle? Yes. Apparent as well. I mean, anybody that knows about light and the way let's say the horizon and the apparent position looks and seems to look at a different distance. Fata Morganas come and go. It lifts up, it disappears, it comes back again. It's at different elevations and whatnot, and that's all relation to where the sun is in the sky. So if you were to do a full 360, the horizon would never be, because it's an apparent position, but it would never be at the same apparent position. There's no such thing. There's no way you could do that to make a circle, because the circle is all points equidistant from the center point. Well, you can't measure a distance to the horizon, so you can't have a circle, because you can't have all points equidistant from the center point. It just doesn't work. It's not possible. You cannot have the horizon as a circle. Logically, it's not even worth thinking about. So we've gone over a few logical arguments about an angle. I mean, at being 50 years old and having to have a discussion about what an angle is and whether you can have an angle to a curve and the reason why tangents are put there in order so you can have an angle between two straight lines. What the meaning of a tangent is, why a tangent is, what a tangent is. All of these sort of things are basic geometric concepts, but how it's developed into an argument or a discussion that seems to be people so heated about it, why people can't just come and discuss these. We call them, everybody knows these are basic geometric concepts. All are based around straight lines, angles, how you manipulate and move the points in order to make geometric relationships of the straight lines, and the compass is a straight line mover. It's in order to keep those points equidistant from the center and move them around to a different position so you could still use them and predict other things. So if everybody gets a Euclidia as an app on the phone, you understand how these lines and things are used and helpful, and which angles and things are possible to do, and how it's possible to use the straight line and the relationship between these lines and points to do a multitude of geometric things. Actually, if you can't pick up a compass and a pencil and do it for yourself, just get the Euclidia app. I'll get a picture of it so people can have a look. Put this in the chat. I told the missus about this and she quite likes it as well. Quite a few of us have been doing this. Oh, it's taking a while for the pictures to come through on my phone now as well. I think Discord might be messing us about. There you go. Euclidia. It's got that picture of Euclid. It's an app. It's a free app. Get it for yourself. Have a play about with it. I've got it. I've put the nighttime mode on it as well. It's a free app. Just if you want to try and get into geometry, or to come along with what we're doing, I don't know how long it's been out. There's quite a few quotes in it as well. Quote of the day. Been quite a good day today. What have we got time? Ooh, it's still only early. Only been going for a bit. I don't know if anybody kicked back from the proof from yesterday, but I mean, we're still going on with logic and proof, and the idea of, I think, in order for you to have a valid proof, that proof must be supported by a logical statement. In order to base your to base your proof and find the results for your proof in reality, you have to be able to have a logical statement and a logical framework to build your proof upon. And in order to make sure that your proof is valid and sound, I would suggest there is a conversation that needs to go on with multiple people. Now, the people that you should have these conversations with are people who can challenge you, make you justify your logical statement and see whether there's any holes in it. If you cannot find any holes within a logical statement, then you may have a valid and sound proof, but you would still need to back it up with as many cases as you can, and obviously talk to as many people about it as possible. That would, my advice would be, because we've got a good team here and we work through quite a lot of these arguments that get given to us. Just recently, we've noticed an upturn in the ridiculous arguments coming from the Globe side. Like, really ridiculous. That it seems like once we've injected logic and shown people logic, it causes some sort of a reaction, a cognitive reaction that's fascinating to watch, but a little bit troubling, I think, for me anyway, because I'm wondering how many people there are that actually have similar views to the people that we talk to. I mean, people we talk to are definitely of an extreme case for the model fanatic. Not just model afflicted, but severely model afflicted. Most people can learn, a moderate model affliction without understanding. Most people will be living with the paralogisms, unaware of it until somebody asks them a question, and then obviously they can then make the link and find a contradiction. Now, when that contradiction is shown to somebody who is unaware of a logical process, it can be troubling. How that reaction goes on, at that first point of contact, when somebody's shown a contradiction, I think it matters on who is the person that's telling them that contradiction and what they imagine the intellect of the person that's giving them the contradiction or showing them that contradiction. If they perceive the person that they're talking to as a lower intellect, then likely ridicule is what will happen. And the paralogism that person has will be reinforced by their perception of somebody else who showed them the contradiction. It's a troubling thing. I'm still trying to understand what's going on and how people can be put in this position. Yeah. But I mean, people will, no doubt people will be making their own minds up about what they would imagine logic to be. But logic is up there for discussion. It should be talked about. It should be discussed. And hopefully that's what we're opening up here. A chance for people to discuss logically the arguments and the discussions that we've had. Now, obviously, logic kills certain amounts of arguments, it's pretty obvious the globe doesn't last very long within a logical argument. So therefore, there are arguments that are being avoided. There are discussions, there are topics that people won't want to talk about at all. And that's fine. In all of the other servers, if you find yourself with a conversation or a discussion or something that you can't talk to anybody about in any of the other servers or anywhere like that, that's what we're here for. We're here to have the logical discussions about arguments that may have been around for years. I think most of the arguments have been developed within a paralogistic framework. The arguments have been developed from both sides, and there is no logical founding. There's no logical reasoning for them. And when that's pointed out, there seems to be a breakdown in the discussion, and the conversations just stop happening.
Yeah, it turns to a peacock fight. Who has the most feathers? Who has the, read the most books? Who went to the best college? All of this kind of shit happens at that point.
Yeah, citation battle.
Yeah.
Maybe an association of who you told and who else has used that argument that you're using, and such a person said that, and the obfuscation just increases of whenever you touch upon any of these subjects or topics or whatever. It doesn't matter. But if anybody wants to discuss any of those, that's what we're here for. Next Level Discord. Come on in. Have a discussion. What time is it? 22:47. Did we have anybody join today, or are we, as we think, going to be turning it down a bit? Tuesday night, Wednesday, tomorrow. Now, tomorrow, we are going to be going over. Is it a two-parter, asking, or is it just the second part, or is it both of them? I don't know how long the videos are, but there's a discussion that B-Balls put out with Brandon that we had talking about our test. As this is proof week, this is an old discussion that I don't think I put out myself. I felt it. We went over to Brandon's, and I thought, it didn't go too well. Let's say it didn't look good for Brandon, so I didn't decide to put it out. But it seems after quite a while, B-Ball has gone back and decided to pull up a video where I was trying to discuss about the proof of the shared straight line segment, or it may have been even earlier than that, where we were talking about how to prove the hump or not hump. It would have been a water level test, one of them anyway. Maybe the earlier version of the water level test, conceptual one. So that's what we'll be going over. We'll be going over a video tomorrow. Hopefully, if we can get Brandon to come back and have a chat about it, a discussion about how people's conceptions of what geometry is and how it works and how it relates to reality and how we can use geometry in reality, how our test has developed over time. And obviously we've already done the tests, or they've done the earlier one. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. We're going over a couple of videos relating to the test and the proof for level being horizontal. And yeah, we're going to let's go Brandon, or I don't know. I'll sort something out for tomorrow, but that's what we're doing tomorrow. I think I've done another video. Did I? Said we'd put something out before it, I think. I don't know. I might have a video to put out before it to lead up into it. Hopefully we do. Everybody's still happy with the structure of all of these sort of things. It's getting a bit tougher without anybody else coming in or talking about stuff. But logic is obviously the way we're going, and I think these nights might be a bit better if we can sort of structure logic night around fallacies, arguments, and how the discussion of these things develop. Tonight, I think I'm mainly within logic at the minute. I'm struggling to work out. Standard logic is good. I think it's really easy to work out, and it can be structured in a way where you can work somebody through a process to go through it. The problem seems to be when there's no communication within an argument. People in chats, people don't like to discuss things and communicate. So therefore, the argument and the nuances are always lost within text chat. It's rather difficult to do that. So I encourage people to come in with an argument, and we can work over these arguments. Obviously, there's a lot of non-arguments that are talked of as arguments that we don't discuss here at all, because they're just not a matter of discussion. There is no actual argument there to formulate a discussion around. I mean, you can always have an argument about what something isn't, but that's not constructive. It doesn't help you in any way if you're imagining something that isn't and then arguing against the thing that you've just made up that it isn't anyway. It just seems a backwards way of arguing and talking about things. Doesn't seem logical to discuss something that isn't real and then to make up an argument to say why that thing that isn't real isn't real. Most people should know what we're talking about. I think so, anyway. I don't think the models are real. They're just conceptual. So any discussion or any talk of the model is, especially talk of the model to disprove the model, seems ridiculous to me. And I know that we're in an arena where a lot of people have got accustomed to doing that. They're talking. There's two groups of people. One of them's talking about the other person's model and then saying that model isn't real because it just doesn't exist. And the other group are saying, well, you've got a model that doesn't even exist either, and this is why that model doesn't exist. So there's groups of people arguing with each other about each other's models that they've just made up, and then telling them that they're not real, without anybody actually ever talking about what actually is real and claiming positive proof. So there's too many debunkers and not enough. What's the opposite of a debunker?
If a debunker is someone who shows you that the argument or your claim is false, then what would the opposite of that be?
Yeah.
How about just a critical thinker?
Yeah.
Because if debunking is all you're doing, are you really doing anything? Or are you just trying to win an argument?
Well, think about it. What's a bunk?
Well, see, I thought that when you look up the definition of bunk means it's something that's like false or not true.
Yeah, and you
So
debunk it.
I didn't understood that, because I looked that definition up years ago, and I was like, wait a minute, bunk already means that it's
rubbish
faulty or false.
Yeah.
How do you debunk? Yeah, I can remember. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're rubbishing rubbish.
I mean, like, I get if you construct something, you build it. If you deconstruct it, you unbuild it. But if something's bunk, how do you debunk it?
Yeah.
I've never got that concept. But I mean, somebody could enlighten, I guess. I don't know.
It does sound like a misnomer.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure whether there is an opposite to it, right? If a debunk is the opposite of bunk, and bunk is shit, really, then I'm not too sure how that works. If there's any debunkers out there that would like to tell us what the fuck a debunk is and what it means and what the opposite of it is, because that's what we need. We need people that want to, I don't know, can we expose the bunk rather than debunking it? We'll just expose it. And I'd say proof giver, right, is something that they would want to debunk, right? But they would have to think it's rubbish, right? They think a proof is rubbish. And we're doing the proof project, SE. He'll be going on his travels, talking to people, already doing it. We've got a couple of chats that he's had already. We'll be compiling a playlist, proof playlist. You'll have to send us your links, SE, and I'll bung them all on the same playlist. You do one as well, and we'll just have all of the proof videos all together in the same place. It's going to be fascinating talking to people about what you think proof is. I've got quite a few conversations, and they are interesting. SE's the man. If anybody wants to come in and talk to us about what you think a proof is, whether you think you'd like to put your oar in, have your say. Doesn't matter whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours. It doesn't matter. We'll talk to you. Come in. The idea is to try and get an understanding of what people within this arena think about proof, It's been bandied around a lot. Show me the proof. Give me the proof. That's changed this year, 2022. We started off the year with Left Lane, Howard Moore, saying because of the conversations that we've had within this arena, that they've been forced to remove the word proof from conversation. They don't have proofs anymore. So we want to have a conversation. We want to talk to people about what the proofs are. What do you think's a proof? Do you think you can have proofs? Has anybody ever given you a proof? Have you ever asked people for a proof? Has anybody ever asked you for a proof? Do you have anything to give anybody if somebody were to ask you for a proof? What even is proof? Go on.
I can prove to you that I can sit an equilateral triangle on top of a straight line.
Yep. Yeah.
But it is kind of a tricky question. Like if you're in everyday conversation with someone and they say something that you haven't heard about before, you ask them to prove it to you. But do they actually really prove it to you rather than just show you the same circumstantial evidence in most cases that they used to make that conclusion with? What is a proof? I just had a friend tell me that Alex Jones is Bill Hicks, and I asked him to prove it, and he couldn't. So I don't know. What is proof in that kind of context?
Yeah. How can you? I mean, like, is there things you can give proofs for? Is there, there obviously, right? There's no way you can give a proof for everything. Some things are just conjecture, and some things are just, but it's good to understand what the difference is between the two. And until you've had the conversation, it's hard to tell. Isn't it? It's hard to tell where you are on that thing. Where do you put yourself on that, in that conversation? It's fascinating. A lot of people stall, right? One of the things we like to do here, and I've always liked to do it, and I like people to do it to me as well, is if you can get a question and you can ask somebody a question and you can literally watch their brain freeze because their brain's working so hard looking for some answer, trying to work out a problem and a solution to give somebody an answer for something. And I've noticed that an awful lot when you ask people about what is proof to you. It's a tricky question. Seems to have been a tricky question for a lot of people. But it's a good question. And I think most people need a little bit of help with it within the discussion. It's a two-way conversation. 3-way, 4-way, 5-way. Like I say, we're after those discussions, whether they're challenging for people or not challenging. Hopefully, what is proof and how would you give proof? What do you get proof? Where does it come from? Are there different proofs? Are proofs different to different people?
seems like a simple question, right?
Yeah.
But I find when I ask people that question, the first response is, what do you mean? What kind of proof? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Needs to be clarified. It needs to be it needs to be discussed, and I think it needs to be thought about. It's rather cruel, I think, to put people on the spot, especially within a group, and expect somebody to answer you something on the spot, because it's not something that people have thought about. It's been literally, it has been taken out of the education system.
Yeah, but we use it a lot.
Yeah.
In this, whatever this is, right? And it's fascinating when, because the first thing I get when I ask that, what do you mean? In what context and what? But yet we throw that around like it's nothing. Oh, prove it. But the thing is, if we can't even come to a conclusion of what proof is, like I find this very, very intriguing, because that's the fundamental question we should be asking. I think that is the most important single question of our forum, and we can't even come to an understanding of what that is. It's astonishing. How are we supposed to move forward if we can't even come to a consensus of what proof is?
That's dead right. A proof, to me, it's a truth. It has a positive truth value, right? You go on the search and you find a proof, which is the truth of the matter. It's a statement that you've made, and you find the truth value within that. Now, we are meant to be truth seekers. I mean, if you're not out there looking for truth, then it's a it's a two-way thing, right? You've excluded the middle, so there's only falsehood. So if you're not looking for truth, are you just accepting falsehoods, or are you just sort of is it ambiguous? Do you not know whether it's truth or false, and you're not bothered looking for it, so therefore you don't really know, you're just going along with it? I would say proof, truth of things. So
yeah,
finding it most efficiently should be the thing that most people are looking for.
Yeah. For example, how would society advance if it wasn't for proof? Who was talking about a mushroom? Was that you, Bev, that was talking about the mushroom?
For eating the mushroom, right? Yeah. Yeah.
What a brilliant freaking example. Take that as an example. You're walking by the forest, down the forest, and you fall upon a mushroom. Now, you know you've eaten mushrooms before. You know they're delicious, and you know you can feed your family with it, right? But you also know that some of them are poisonous, and you will die if you eat them, and your whole family will die. Now, if you don't have a way to distinguish, prove whether that mushroom is poisonous or not, you're a goner. So that is an amazing example right there, the poison mushroom example. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
How would you know?
Yeah, I think somebody else used the one about the car. I think that was Buster, about if you step out in front of the car's either there or it's not there.
Yeah, I like that one too, yeah.
It's like the links to logic and reality are definitely there. And you can't... you can have a conceptual idea of logic and the argument and all of that, and mess about with all of these fanciful things, but it should be relatable to reality for those reasons. There are consequences in reality. If you do not take logical steps in reality, you will come up against a problem, because logic is derived in reality, and like the logic of the mushroom and the logic of stepping out in front of a car, it has real life consequences of things, and the
like that a
truth
lot.
is there, isn't it?
The mushroom and car logic. That's beautiful. I love it.
It's still not quite right. There must be a better way to explain it. Like within the the paralogisms and the way that you can have to come to a false conclusion. Well, the truth value is a direct route, right? There you can be many different ways wrong, but to find the path to the correct right, that will be a lot more direct. The path should be a lot clearer to truth than the obfuscation routes to falsehood or fallacies. The fallacy route can come at any way, and I believe that's where the wizardry is. Within these arguments that we have, there is a way for people to Darren Brown wizardry, let's say. There are people who can deceive, and that deceit comes through words, and the words that people pick up. If you're not aware of how the different manipulation works, then you can be fooled. And you can be fooled by people that don't even know that they've been fooled. So don't be fooled. Find somebody to talk to about this. And many different people. Have a discussion with as many different people as possible, because then you'll get as many different opinions as possible. And you can choose which is the best for you. But don't think you can make your own truths. A truth has a truth value that should be for everyone. There shouldn't be some people have a truth and some people have a false for the same thing. Yeah, I think the mushroom chat's gone to a different a different area. I think Sam's become a regular in the chat. Thanks for sticking with us, Sam. Right, what time is it? 11:15. Anybody got any final words or anything? I will wrap up at this point. Anybody wants to come into the chat? We do have some stuff to talk about. So
I'd like to say something.
Yeah, go on.
Without proof, without proofs, without truths, our civilization would not be here where we are right now. That is a fact. That is a fact. You can't argue with that. There are things such as proofs, and of course you can't prove anything, but there are things such as proofs. If you eat that poison mushroom, you and your whole family would die. So you have to figure out a way of determining, is it poisonous or not? Yes or no? It's very simple. Thanks.
Okay, anybody else got anything to say? I think we've got Raven's Eyes. He's working on the Trivium in the background. That's going to be good. I think he's working on something, so we'll have a discussion about that in a bit. If anybody wants to come in, click on the button there. There's a link to the Discord. Once you get into the Discord, put type us a message and we'll give you a role to get in the VC. Obviously we've had to lock it down a bit because of the Globe Science attack that we had last week. Video coming out maybe tomorrow, the re-upload of the one that I had to take down. The other one that I thought I may have to take down, it appears that I don't have to take it down. YouTube have decided against it. So
hey, good afternoon.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, sorry, I've had a busy day, but I've been listening. I just wanted to come in and say hi.
Yeah. Thanks for popping in. It's easy to get in here into the Discord, isn't it? Anybody wants to come in, come on in. I'm going to finish off now.
Just button in the link there in the description, and it pops you right in there. You just accept. It's easy. We're very friendly around here most of the time.
Tomorrow night, we're going over the Brandon. Let's go Brandon test. I don't know what to call it. The Brandon incident. So if you want to come here and have a listen to that, might be interesting. Maybe interesting to see how the conversation went and whether you think Brandon's genuine or whether he may be a paralogist. Maybe he was a sophist. Who knows? We'll have a discussion tomorrow. You come and decide. So thanks for popping in. The proof will continue tomorrow. Also, we'll continue all week. The proof discussions. Anybody wants to come in, please come on into the Discord. We will be running discussions about proof. Proof Project 2022 be going on all year. If you want to get your say, there might be a big video at the end of it to compile our understanding within this community of proof. Where's everybody been for the last 5 or 6 years? What have they been doing? What have they been aiming towards? We'll see. Okay. Thanks for popping round and thanks for listening. And I'll leave you with Buster. See you tomorrow.
Thanks, Bev.
You call it the triangle axiom.
I do, yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Right, so you've managed to confuse a lot of people within that argument. Weird times, buddy. Because you weren't trying to say that horizontals are not parallel because you can draw a cross on a piece of paper.
I was temporarily agreeing.
That wasn't the argument.
For fuck's sake.
Because some people have took it as though that is.
I'm sorry. A separate discussion. Happy to talk about that one day. What I originally suggested, and Mike knows this, Mike Jones. We agreed. We sort of discussed the postulate first. You call it the triangle last time.
I do, yeah.
I discussed the swimming pool. Thank you, Mike. Question.
Weird times, buddy.
Don't understand. Swimming pool. Thank you, Mike. Question. You don't understand. For fuck's sake, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mike.
It's not my problem if you don't want to learn.
Thank you, Mike.
You're just on your own.
Well, that I hold to be a self-evident. You call it the triangle axiom.
I do, yeah, because it's got just about a triangle,
So,
yeah.
the question is, why did you include that axiom? You call it the triangle axiom. That postulate
I do,
or
yeah.
axiom. Why did you include that at all? You call it the triangle axiom.
I do, because it sort of shows that triangles have 180 degrees, right? Or the sum of two right angles.
You know? So
Later
you're
to
saying,
change to 180.
how does it show? Well, yeah, it does. I mean, you can prove that, but why did he include that? You call it the triangle axiom. If you can...
Oh, you can prove it?
Be quiet. If you can prove that triangles have... You call it the triangle. The sum of the angles is two right angles. Why would you need... For fuck's sake. I'm sorry, that's my question. You call it the triangle axiom. You call it the triangle axiom.
You don't understand.
I was temporarily agreeing. Be quiet.
It's not my problem if you don't want to learn.
You know?
You're just on your own.
For fuck's sake, I'm sorry. Horizontal lines can easily not be. Just as I suggested, you just sort of get a horizontal line. That I hold to be a self-evident truth. You put two crossing lines on them, and by definition, any two lines, straight lines on a horizontal plane, are themselves horizontal. You might, though. That's the problem. You can't. Well, it's not really a problem. Yeah,
It's not a problem because there's only three straight lines. How fucking difficult can it be?
Point again is that you cannot prove it. A lot of people, you call it the triangle axiom. Millennia thought you could prove the fifth postulate. You call it the triangle axiom. The question is, do we need the enclosure axiom? Yeah, not on the globe hypothesis. I received opinions we don't need it because postulate 1 will do the job for you. And look, Bev, I simply wanted to ask you why you think the postulate's there, and you have explained that. And you have explained that. Not on the globe hypothesis. That I hold to be a self-evident truth. I'm sorry.
It's not my problem if you don't want to learn.
Be quiet.
You're just on your own.
I'll be perfectly honest. I'm sure there are better people back at the other place, the blue place, who can prove this. And we're happy to talk to you.
No logic, no wisdom, no worries.
And you have explained that.
You're just on your own.
You know.
No reason, no logic, no answers to questions.
And you have explained that.
You're just on your own.
Right? That I hold to be a self-evident.
It's a self-evident truth of reality that all triangles, in reality, have 180 or the sum of two right angles.
Be quiet. Not on the globe. Well, it's an assumption. For fuck's sake.
It's not an assumption, is it?
Sorry. For Euclid, it was an assumption because he knew he couldn't prove it. There was a huge debate which went on for centuries. You call it the triangle axiom.
What, that you couldn't prove that triangles have 180
They tried.
degrees?
They thought there was a question: is the fifth postulate? You call it the triangle axiom. Triangle axiom. Is it self-evident or not? A huge debate.
Weird times, buddy.
Thank you, Mike.
Weird times, buddy. You've brought an argument into a group of people that aren't ready for it.
Be quiet. You cannot. Euclidean geometry. You call it the triangle axiom. It does not follow. It doesn't work. Not on the globe. I don't need it as an assumption because we can prove it. You can prove it from the first postulate. For fuck's sake. Horizontal lines can easily not be. You can just, as I suggested, you just sort of get a horizontal plane, right? Thank you, Mike. You put two crossing lines on them, and by definition, any two lines, straight lines on a horizontal plane, are themselves horizontal. For fuck's sake, I'm sorry.
You don't understand.
Well, that I hold to be a self-evident truth. For fuck's
You
sake.
don't understand.
If you could prove it, it wouldn't be a postulate,
It's
would it?
not my problem if you don't want to learn. You're just on your own.
You call it the triangle axiom.
I do, yeah, because he's got just about a triangle,
No,
yeah.
the question is, why did Euclid include that axiom? You call it the triangle. That postulate or axiom. Why did he include that at all? Thank you, Mike.
because it sort of shows that triangles have 180 degrees, right? Or the sum of two right angles.
But not on the globe page. You're saying, for fuck's sake, how does it show? Well, yeah, it does. I mean, you can prove that, but why did he include that? Be quiet. If you can.
Oh, you can prove it.
You call it the triangle axis. If you can prove that triangles have the sum of the angles is two right angles, why would you need postulate? That's my question. I will not verbally disagree with it. What goes on in my own head is my own business. I do not believe that. Be quiet.
You don't understand.
You call it the triangle axis. For fuck's sake, I'm sorry.
It's not my problem if you don't want to learn. You're just on your own.
Yourself, don't tell me to be quiet.
You have a horizontal plane, and any straight line drawn on the globe must itself be horizontal. That I hold to be a self-evident truth. Yeah, but not on the globe hypothesis. I was temporarily agreeing.
Right, so you've managed to confuse a lot of people within that argument.
I was temporarily agreeing.
Because like you weren't trying to say that all horizontals are not parallel because you can draw
not on the
cross on a piece of paper, are you?
You know?
That wasn't the argument.
Not on the globe.
Because some people have took it as though that is.
For fuck's sake. Separate discussion. Happy to talk about that one day.
Yourself, don't tell me to be quiet.
Point again is that you cannot prove it. A lot of people, you call it the triangle axis. Centuries, millennia, thought you could prove the fifth postulate. You call it the triangle axis from the preceding thought. Be quiet. I was temporarily agreeing. But not on the globe. You call it the triangle axis. But not on the globe.
It's not my problem if you don't want to learn.
Be quiet.
Just on your own.
That I hold to be a self-evident truth. For fuck's sake, I'm sorry.
No reason, no logic, no wisdom, no worries.
And you have explained that.
You're just on your own.
But not on the globe, you know.
No reason, no logic, no answers to a question.
And you have explained that.
You're just on your own.
Betty, do you believe the water surface is a horizontal plane of reference?
It's a horizontal plane, possibly, but not on the globe. Let's assume.
Thank you.
The surface of either swimming pool, a horizontal establishes a horizontal plane of reference, right? Let's assume.
Thank you.
The surface of either swimming pool establishes a horizontal plane of reference, right? It's not really a problem. Yeah,
it's not a problem because there's only 3 straight lines. How fucking difficult